Break out those spatulas, everybody. We got a twofer tonight on a Thursday as Florida State has flipped a four-star running back and also a safety. We'll talk about the safety in a little bit. But it's four-star running back Amari Thomas, who has flipped from South Carolina back to Florida State. And joining us to talk about that is senior recruiting analyst for Warchant.com. His name is Michael Langston. Michael, appreciate the time. I know that this particular bit of news, you can paint a better picture than most because you just spoke to Amari Thomas, didn't you?
Yeah, I was there. It was a wild day, by the way. I broke down in my car. I had flat tire on the way over there. Had to get Diane to come over there and help me out. We fixed that up, and I took her car, so we got it done. But yeah, I was over there for several times just watching his practice. Got up with him. The initial plan was just to get up about how he visited over the weekend, so kind of just see, kind of what he saw, and then I started to kind of get body language of stuff that there was more to it. So, just we got that done too with potential commitment. So I kind of felt even before I went over there that this was trending, towards FSU because that's a school that he's always loved. I don't think he got that connection when he was at South Carolina the way it is with FSU, where he knows how they're going to run the ball. He knows the people there. The people in the building are a big deal. People can read all about it. I got a story on the front page of his thoughts and stuff. But I think the thing he put it in a good summary was there's nothing better than playing in your backyard. So I think that was part of it. I think he certainly loved being home, but also just what FSU does with their running game, and he's kind of a missing link to if you watch their running backs and what they have. Sam Singleton's good. He does a lot of different things between the tackles, and Chromo's that big power guy, and certainly you have Cam that's kind of a mixture. I think this kid's more Chris Thompson esque,
Mm.
where he can do a lot of things shifty wise. He's a little stronger than Chris was, and Chris is one of my favorite guys I've ever covered. But he has some things that he does that's similar to him of how shifty he is, and Chris was the same way, and I think Amari is as well. So it's a tremendous pickup. He's a guy I value a lot. I've said that throughout the whole recruiting process. They stayed on him. I think a lot of people just forgot about him once he went to South Carolina. I think FSU, even when he committed, it was just as active and pushing as it was before. And I think it was really just seeing how he fit into that room. And then once he saw that, hey, they have something, I have something that they maybe don't have. I think it just clicked because he already loved the people there.
Well, yeah, this is somebody that Rivals values a lot too, Michael. If you look at the industry rankings, he's a three-star. If you look at the Rivals rankings, he's a top 200 player and squarely in the four-star camp. Why
Right.
do you think that he is that type of an impact player? You talked about Chris Thompson's abilities. That makes me excited because I love to watch that guy talk about
Yeah.
a running back who understood the dynamics of when to be patient and then when to be explosive. What about Amari's game do you think is four-star worthy versus the three-star that the industry has?
I knew he was shifty. What really caught my attention, he said he's almost up to 200 pounds now, and and when I see him in person, it's different when you see a guy in recruits and he comes there for a junior day or stuff, and it's different when you see him in pads, and he's a lot more thicker than I thought. So I think the thing that attracts, I think the rankings, especially from the rival standpoint, is that he is just so shifty, has over 1,500 yards this year. I think around over 20 something touchdowns. He's a guy you can utilize in the passing game very well. Very good reading blocks and seeing stuff, and just could do a lot of wildcat stuff with him. But he's very just shifty in space. He's just so good in space. Maybe not quite as fast as what Chris was, but I think he has good speed, solid speed. But I mean, Chris's speed was a kind of another level. Where Chris had some really good speed for a running back, but I think his speed is good. But his biggest characteristic is just his ability to absorb contact and what he does after contact, and then his footwork in space is just so exceptional to me.
Do you think, Michael, that this player who has committed to Florida State, decommitted to Florida State, recommitted to Florida State is done? You think Amari's done now?
I would say it's likely because you go to a place that you're. I think comfort is a big part of what we do with certainly NIL and production and fit are always big things. But when you do it this late, um, you know that what kind of the staff that's there right now. Hopefully it stays intact that way. But if it stays that way, yeah, I do think it's likely that will be it.
That's my wild card question coming up. But first, there's a second flip that Florida State pulled off again this Thursday night that we're recording this. Three-star safety Jordan Crutchfield was a Kentucky commitment. He now is committed to Florida State. Great size here, 6'2 and a half, just under 200 pounds. He's off the east coast of the state of Florida at Vero Beach, Fort Pierce.
Yep.
Yep, we know that area. All in there, Fort Pierce, Vero Beach. Jupiter's not that far away. So what say you about Jordan Crutchfield, Florida State's newest safety commit?
Yeah, Matt was the one that interviewed him, but certainly I know his recruitment very well. Certainly after they lost Jay Timmons and Tadarius Hughes, both four-star DBs, we knew they were in the market to get a DB. And I even put the two guys, the most important visitors going into that weekend, was Cam Wilson, who I feel like they have a strong shot with, and certainly Jordan Crutchfield, who they've been on for a long time. I think for this recruitment, once that opened up, that there was a spot that it was like, okay, now they have a spot. It was really just FSU just crossing all the T's and dotting the I's on the visit and just nailing down kind of how they envision him in this defense. And I think once they did that with Evan Cooper, Pat Surtain, and all the defensive staff, I think over the weekend after the weekend visit, I think it was pretty much done. I don't know when he committed. The funny thing is those two commitments were like 3 minutes apart, so it was like really close together. I knew he was going to commit. I just felt like it'd be this week, but I didn't know it would be kind of the same time. But overall, he is, like I said, one of the two major targets that they is officially visiting to get him. So to get a guy that covers the range really well, very good in pass defense, very good in narrowing windows, making windows tough to pass in, and a guy that's this tremendous athlete. They use him all over the field, both offense and defense. He's a guy that they feel very comfortable with, that he can play a lot of different spots. But I think safety certainly where I see him at FSU, but that's a major pickup because they needed a DB in this class after losing those two guys. So I think both of these guys are certainly major additions. I think Jordan's more of a low four-star when I look at his skills. And I watch his film, I study his film a lot this week, and then I think Amari should be, even though Rivals has him there, I think probably even higher, probably like 120 nationally when I look at that kid. So I think both of them are really good pickups of needs that they need, that they need something in there, those kind of products to kind of fit your system.
All right, so here's the wild card question.
Okay.
Do you think getting these two commitments is a coincidence, or do you think that this might indicate where Florida State is going with its head coach?
Well, I would say like for the last week and a half, I've started to feel like the indications that a lot of these recruits, whether they're committed or whether they're being pursued by FSU, that they anticipate that this staff is going to stay intact. That Norvell's staying at least for the short term future as far as right now. That they give off the vibe that that it will stay intact, and they expect him to be there. And I think we all have emotional responses to what this situation is with Norvell, and I did. I'll be the first to say I'll admit, like, I thought they might have needed a change. I felt like a change was probably something they maybe needed, but at the same time, once I thought about it more, I'm like, you know what? If you're doing 53 million, you're talking about 70 million. You better make sure whoever the next guy is, that it's like a lock, and it's gonna be perfect. And that's the question. Do you have that?
Yep.
Hypothetically, do you have a Jimbo Fisher or a Brent Key that's on your radar that you feel is attainable, or the ones that you will pursue? Well, if you don't, then you might be better off if, let's assume hypothetically that Mike wins tomorrow night when they play NC State, then you can kind of move forward with that. But I understand both sides of it, but from a recruit standpoint, it probably benefits FSU to just keep going with the flow of what they're doing. It's easier to keep your class intact than it is starting over with a new guy and piecing it all together and making sure those guys stick.
I know that I've been pretty clear about where I stand on this particular issue, Michael. But I will say, just from where we're sitting now, it's a week before Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
and signing day is 13 days away. It's basically 12 and change days away from where we're sitting right now as recording this video. I think we both agree on this one, that Florida State needs to make a call, whatever
Yeah.
it is, soon for the betterment of the 2026 cycle, and that is recruiting, portal, current roster, to better their chances for 2026 and beyond. we're kind of past time for them to make a decision whether it's they're moving on or they're not. Do you think that that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's very fair, Tom. Another thing I would add to that is like, like let's say hypothetically I do win the NC State game. I'm not saying you announce it the same night, but the day after or soonly after that game, you need to come out and say and make a decision like this is what we're doing. My viewpoint and opinion is they'll come out and say, hey, we're staying with them, we're moving forward. But at the same time, here's my other dynamic to that. I think FSU needs to seriously examine how this staff is or what they're doing and what fits and what doesn't fit. You have to look at every parts of it, from the behind the scenes to whoever your staff is. I think that's something, if they do decide that they're staying, they need to address that. They need to at least examine that. And I think that's an important factor. If you're going to go with this, you got to put everything that puts Mike in a position to have success. Otherwise, you just need to you probably make a change and move. So if you're not willing to do that, I think that's a key too. When I look at this, where I understand both sides of the spectrum of who wants them to go and who wants them to stay. I know there's a majority of them are tired of it when you're talking about 15 losses in 2 years, but I think overall that's kind of my stance on it. Where if you don't have somebody, I think the pitchforks are always out. Like, okay, ready, 15 losses, but you got to have somebody that's going to be the guy. Yeah, and if you don't know you have that guy, what can
Yeah,
you do?
I would say so. The last thing here, you also have to stop the bleeding of decommits and
Yeah,
doubt, right? Because we were here, let's say 10 days ago, they had three more commits than they have now in terms of kids that decided to go elsewhere. And I would imagine, Michael, that the cloudy future here for Mike Norvell of Florida State contributed to that if it wasn't the number one reason that those kids decommitted. So you got to be able to stop that bleeding. This is good that Florida State brings in a couple of kids, but the decision, if you're going to keep them, would
right.
probably quell that. And the kids that you have right now are likely to maintain and stick come the signing period in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, you got to greatly. You make a decision. I mean, I'm not trying to be too critical. My goodness, man, you have to make a decision and be emphatic about what the standard is, what you're planning, reasons behind what. I mean, you have to do something where you make a decision. Because I was talking to Ira about this the other night. It's like if you announce and say stay, that's going to help recruiting a lot because those recruits won't be foggy about what is there and what's going to be there or looking behind them or any of that stuff. So you need to be clear one way or the other whether now if they get blown out in these two next games, then we're having a different conversation altogether. I think that's the only thing that maybe could make this very murky if that happened. But I think overall, the administration needs to be kind of make a decision on kind of what they're doing.
Well, we'll stay tuned for all of that
Yeah,
on warchant.com. But it's a very interesting time to follow Florida State football.
yeah, yeah,
November of 2025 is going to be bumpy one way or the other. There's going to be anger one way or the other. And
yeah.
there's going to be some people who are satisfied with what happens next, one way or the other. That's why you head over to warchant.com, spend $1 for your first week over at Warchant to get the insights, to interact with the tribal council, interact with the premium recruiting board. These are the lands of team and recruiting coverage like no other, available at warchant.com. Sign up for just $1 for your first week. And also look at upgrading as well. We have a great incentive for you, $50 in Garnet and Gold gift codes. $50 in Garnet and Gold gift codes if you upgrade from the basic plan to the ad-free tier. It's going to offset and make you money immediately for upgrading. Nice timing right around the holidays. It's Black Friday. Come early. Michael, appreciate the time as always. I imagine we're going to be talking quite a bit over the next couple of weeks.
I very much expect that. So it'll be busy. This is a great little run they're on. Jalen Anderson, JUCO 4-star. Now you get Amari Thomas, a 4-star running back, and then a high 3-star in Jordan Crutchfield as a position that you need. So there's going to be a lot more coming up. We're just scratching the surface, guys, because we're about to hit into the portal. You're about to end the season. Find a decision what the plan is, what they're doing. If we're going to see a new staff or new coaches or a new head coach. So I'd say stay tuned to War Chant. And by the way, I think Ira did a really good job as far as the article. Not to switch gears really quick before I go on the NC State game coming up. I think that is vital for FSU. For those that haven't read it, to get off to a very good start. If you look at every one of the games that they've lost on the road, they need to set the tone early, and it will certainly, I think, benefit them moving forward.
Join us for the watch along right here on this channel, 8
Yeah.
o'clock Friday night. We'll talk to you next time, everybody, right here on Warchant TV.